After a several-year-long absence, Beavis and Butt-Head are finally back, and this time, they're not just doing America, but the entire universe. Does this newest entry hold a candle to its legendary 90s predecessor? Let's talk about it. If you've watched any of my content before, you know that I don't just jump right into a review. I like to get a little bit nostalgic first. But if you just want to hear my thoughts on the newest Beavis and Butt-Head movie, use the chapter selection on the video timeline down below. The Beavis and Butt-Head franchise has always been a big part of my life. I was born in 1992 and the youngest sibling in a family of 6. And I guess my parents didn't want me going around calling my preschool classmates fart knockers or dillweeds because I wasn't allowed to watch Beavis and Butt-Head with my older siblings. But come on, we all know that if something is deemed forbidden, especially to a little kid, they're going to find a way to consume that forbidden thing. Probably my earliest memory involves me being kicked out of the living room while my siblings watched Beavis and Butt-Head. Luckily, my parents were out for the night, so I snuck into their bedroom and watched the final judgment of Beavis on a little 13-inch TV. I only remember that it was that episode specifically because the image of St. Peter has been burned into my brain for most of my life. But the 90s were a wild time to be a kid. Blue's Clues and Gullah Gullah Island in the morning, Rocko's Modern Life in the afternoon, and Beavis and Butt-Head at night. Good times, man. And then there was Beavis and Butt-Head Do America, where the duo made their big screen debut. Do you guys remember scrambled cable channels? I'm too stupid to explain how they worked, but basically there were certain cable channels that you could tune into, but they were pretty much not viewable. I remember catching a scrambled version of Beavis and Butt-Head Do America on one of those channels when I was a kid. I tuned in during the scene where Beavis and Butt-Head meet their dads in the desert, and they create a mushroom cloud by farting on a bonfire. I didn't even care that the movie was scrambled. That moment had me laughing hysterically. But I did eventually watch Beavis and Butt-Head Do America in all its glory, and to this day, it's one of my favorite animated movies. I did revisit it before making this video, but honestly, I probably watch it, I would say, once a year. And I did play Virtual Stupidity and the Sega Genesis game all the time when I was younger. So yeah, as a longtime fan of this franchise, I was pretty excited when I found out that Beavis and Butt-Head Do the Universe was being made. With all the nostalgia out of the way, how did I feel about Beavis and Butt-Head Do the Universe? As always, I'm glad that I got to spend more time with these characters. Beavis and Butt-Head will probably never stop making me laugh. These are the same dim-witted, excessively horny, hilarious individuals you know and love. Their main goal, much like in Do America, is to score. But in order to get there, they have to navigate a few obstacles along the way. The movie begins in the year 1998. Beavis and Butt-Head are sent to an 8-week space camp program where it's discovered that they're naturally gifted at, docking. Their newly discovered talent leads them to space, where their shenanigans cause them to fly into a black hole that sends them to the year 2022. I mentioned Rocko's Modern Life earlier, and the basic plot structure of this movie reminded me a lot of the 2019 Rocko movie called Static Cling. Anyway, mixing Beavis and Butt-Head with modern society is where this movie truly shines. There's a scene where the duo wanders into a college gender studies class, and I won't spoil anything, but the payoff of that scene was priceless.
Step aside, please. We have white privilege.
Of course, I did have some complaints. There's a subplot in this movie that very much mirrors the ATF subplot in Do America, but it felt like a much weaker retread of that storyline. Just think back on some of the supporting characters in Do America. You had Tom Anderson, who couldn't keep Beavis and Butt-Head out of his camper.
Well, I'll be danged. That's them 2 kids that have been whacking in my camper.
That old lady on the plane and bus, voiced by Cloris Leachman. Muddy and Dallas Grimes, voiced by Bruce Willis and Demi Moore. And ATF agent Fleming, voiced by Robert Stack. There were so many hilarious scenes with these characters that didn't rely on the inclusion of Beavis and Butt-Head. Whereas I felt like every scene in Do the Universe that didn't involve Beavis or Butt-Head was a bit underwhelming. And actually, let's talk about the title of this movie. The first one was called Beavis and Butt-Head Do America, and the title of this new one, Do the Universe, sort of implies that the stakes will be much higher than the first movie. I just never really felt like it hit that next level. For example, the Hoover Dam scene in the first film was incredibly cinematic, not to mention absolutely hilarious.
Masturbation?
The only scene that really compares to that one in Do the Universe is a scene in which Beavis essentially causes an uprising at a county jail. Beyond that, there really weren't many standout cinematic moments. And of course, unlike Do America, this movie isn't being released to theaters, but rather directly to Paramount Plus. So naturally, the budget is going to be a bit lower. As a result, changes were made to the animation style. Beavis and Butt-Head Do America was inked and painted by hand, which is extremely costly and time-consuming, whereas Do the Universe was created digitally in Adobe Animate. The animation was done by Titmouse Inc., the studio that makes pretty much every animated series on TV these days. And because they mostly work on Adult Swim content, you'll probably find yourself comparing the movie to something you'd see on there. Also, one of my favorite aspects of Do America was the soundtrack. There were so many great tracks on there, and Isaac Hayes, the legendary singer-songwriter, who also provided the voice of Chef on South Park, composed the opening title theme for that movie. The soundtrack really pushed that movie to another level. Whereas Do the Universe only has a few songs that are used very sparingly, but I will say that there are definitely some good tracks on here. I might have had a few complaints, and obviously I preferred the 1996 classic, but overall I really did enjoy Beavis and Butt-Head Do the Universe. I recommend revisiting Beavis and Butt-Head Do America before watching the new one, and that movie is also streaming on Paramount+, but honestly, if you don't have time to watch both movies, you could just jump right into the new one without any problems. But what did you think of Beavis and Butt-Head Do the Universe? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.